Hello, 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 and welcome to CR Pack's Coffee with the Carter Man. I promised you I would do this every Friday, and then I missed last Friday. The second Friday I missed because of an illness in the family, mine, but I'm back to 100% today, so let's grab our coffee. Okay, let's do this thing. Have a what our friend Scott calls a simultaneous sip. It is good coffee. We use Folgers, by the way. And let's talk coffee with the Carter Man. Almost slipped up there in a minute. You'll know why. We're gonna break Coffee with the Carter Man from now on into three distinct segments, okay? First segment, and we're going to try and keep each one to about 10 minutes. I'm going to try and stop yapping forever for a change and keep each one to 10 minutes, all right? First segment, first 10-minute segment will be review of the news. What's going on around us? What the heck is going on around us? And from the perspective of a 50-year political pro, me, 50 years at the top political ranks in Washington as a political operative. Some people say I should only mention that when I'm in a confessional somewhere, but nonetheless, it was a heck of a ride. You know, working with the White House, several different presidents, the Director of Communications, with the U.S. Senate, National Right to Work Committee, an incredible organization, Judicial Watch, just a bunch of them, Director of Communications there. You get some insights, and my job is to share them with you and to use them to put today's news in the perspective. So that's going to be our first segment of each week with Coffee of the Carter Man, which will come out to you every Friday, okay? Second segment, segment 2, I'm going to do an interview. Every week, I'm going to grab someone who I think you're going to find pretty darn fascinating, who knows what's going on around us and is willing to step up to the plate and tell the truth and knock it out of the park, and explain what's going on around us with some insights and inside scoops. And we're going to do some exposés, okay? Some exposés. So every week, second segment is going to be with a newsmaker interview, okay? Some people that I know you're going to like because I've liked a bunch of them for a very long time. So I know how good they are, how honest they are, how courageous they are. We're going to interview them every single week. That's segment 2. As I say, about 10 minutes. Sometimes if I get the chance, I'll tell you who it's going to be, so you can email me your questions. Let's put that up right now. Let me make it clear. My email address, clclews, CLEWS @gmail.com. Okay, CLEWS @gmail.com. Email me with your request for interviewees, with anything, you know, questions, queries, comments. Just, I want to hear from you because this whole show is for you, okay? Coffee with the Carter Man. So that's the second segment. Third, final segment is going to be predictions. What I think is going to happen essentially in the week or so ahead. All right? Based upon the way I've seen politicians operate over the past almost 50 years, I'm going to share with you my best insights into what I think the politicians are going to be doing to you in the next week to 10 days. Every week, we're going to finish up with predictions, okay? All right. So let's do this thing now, as we say on our coffee mug. Let's do this thing. That's our Coffee with Carter Man slogan, okay? Because this is an activist podcast. We really want to do stuff. We want to have results. We want to turn this country around. We want to take back America and, yeah, make America great again. and put Donald Trump back in the White House. I'm just going to level with you. That's my goal. He was a great president. He'll be a greater president in the second term. 45 was great. 47 is going to be even greater. So let's talk about what's happening in the news. A lot of important stuff. One of the things that's very important that is not getting a lot of coverage is the mainstream network canning Catherine Herridge and seizing her files. Okay, now I've been corresponding with Catherine for several months now and saying to her, I'm telling you what I've told her. I'm just telling you in my correspondence with her, text message correspondence, you need to do a podcast, Catherine. They're not going to let you on the mainstream media continue to be as strong and as brave and courageous and honest as you are. I told her over and over again, start your own podcast. Now, the reason for that is twofold. One is podcasts are the future. That's why we're doing this podcast now. The mainstream media is dead media walking. If somebody came to me and said, we're going to let you buy Fox or CBS or CNN, you can buy all the stock, become the majority stockholder. If you just for an investment of, let's say, $50 million, I'd say, thanks for the opportunity, but I think I'll use the $50 million to invest in toenail fungus. Okay? I mean, toenail fungus has a lot more future than the mainstream media. It's over. It's done. The commentators on every one of those networks who sits with the broomstick up their butt and tells you what's going on today in the news, and when they commentate, it's always from the women lower their voice, notice, so they try to sound kind of like a female baritone, and the men look deadly serious. Wolf Blitzer looks so serious, it looks like he's trying to keep from passing gas. Then the news today, it's over, it's done. Americans are tired of being talked at by the mainstream media. They want podcast where you get a chance to talk with each other. Okay, that's why I give you my email address. I'll give you my phone number, 202-664-6190. Text me, phone me, and in the future, we're going to be taking live calls, okay? At least once a month, just live calls, open mic, because podcasts are interaction. The mainstream media was talking down. I always tell people, mainstream media reminds me of years ago when I was young, so it's a long time ago. Daryl Zanuck used to tell his staff out there at 20th Century or wherever he was head of, when I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. That's the mainstream media in America and has been forever, and they're done. They're over. So the news about Catherine is they have dumped her because she was too damn honest, just to be honest with you. And I had been encouraging her to do a podcast like Megyn Kelly does now, Judge Napolitano. These are great podcasts. These are great podcasts. I hope you're watching them. I hope you are watching them just like you're watching this one, because it's where you get the truth, the unvarnished truth, and you get a chance to really talk with people rather than having them talk at you from my position on high here at CNN. I'm Jake the fake tab or whatever his name is. They're disgusting people. Disgusting, pompous asses is what they are. And I'm talking Fox, all of them. Okay, that's over, that's done with. So Catherine, that's big news there because it's just the beginning, okay? If it were an isolated incident, I'd tell you, it wouldn't be a top news story that we're going to do on Coffee with the Carter Man, but it's not an isolated incident. You're going to see more and more of this now as people who want to be honest, who understand the podcast is a wave of the future. Mainstream media is dead media walking. They want to relate to you, and you're going to see them with their own podcast. And Catherine is going to be next. As I say, I've talked to her about this. Excuse me a second, little residual from my missing our podcast last week. But that's where we are. So it's one of the top news stories. And I see now, look, already it's almost 10 minutes, but I want to do a second one. I want to do a second one here. The war in the Ukraine. Okay. Now, those of you who have been receiving my daily emails for over 2 years now, the CRPAC Daily Update. And if you're not, go to constitutionalrightspac.com, constitutionalrightspac.com. That's what CRPAC stands for those of you who are new. Sign up for my daily update, as the president of CRPAC. Every day it's a letter to you, and it's a personal letter. It's not all pompous. It's not all staid prose. It's talking to you. Hey, here's what's going on. Here's what I think's going on. Here's what I think you need to know. Many times, here's what I think us together, here's what we need to do to save our country. Okay, so sign up. Go sign up for that. And the reason I bring that up is not just because I'd like you to sign up. I think it'd be good for you and for me and for all of us. But I've been saying for 2 years, this war in the Ukraine, this Biden proxy war in the Ukraine, is ill-advised, and Zelensky, the puppet that's been the marionette that they've put into power, they installed, cannot win. They cannot win. Now, I had over and over, Biden would stumble up to the microphone and mumble, Putin is losing the war, and Putin is losing, he's losing. Putin cannot win, he's losing. And I would say to you, he's lying. He is lying. Once again, lying Joe, toxic Joe Biden is lying to you. That smarmy Kirby spokesperson would come out and with his phony sincerity, it's over. Strategically, Putin can't win. That's his favorite line, strategically, whatever the hell that means. And I would tell you, it's all a lie. It's a lie. Russia cannot lose. They will not lose. Zelensky knows nothing about military. Look, okay, let's be honest about Zelensky. Here is Zelensky's, before he was installed by the United States as the puppet, the war puppet in the Ukraine. This is what Zelensky did for a living, okay? Okay? Not a guy you would follow into war. So what they did, our CIA and Victoria Nuland, remember that name, she is a war criminal. She installed this guy. Okay, maybe she liked his vile performances. He was a porno comedian. She installed him, paid him off. Zelensky, I'm just going to tell you right now, I estimate he has anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion in a Swiss bank account, maybe Cayman Islands, maybe even Belize banks. And we know he has 4 to 5 mansions. He just bought the latest multi-million-dollar mansion in Alexandria, Virginia. He may have one there too, but Egypt. So he's always prepared for his getaway. He knew they couldn't win, but yet he was getting paid so much money, so much money. He was more than willing to send 500,000 young Ukrainians to their deaths, into the meat grinder, because he was getting the power, the glory, and the payoffs, the payola. Okay? I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into the background other than to say, when the U.S. under Obama violated the Minsk Agreement 1, Minsk Agreement 2, okay, when we broke our long-standing word from 1991 to the Russians, we would not move NATO east, okay, when we organized the Maidan coup, where we overthrew the duly elected government of Ukraine, when we encouraged Zelensky and his predecessors to slaughter the people in Donetsk, 14,000 of them, sooner, and then even then, Putin, I'm not saying, look, you may like Putin, you may hate Putin, but nonetheless, Putin did beg them, please stop all this, let's negotiate. He thought they had with Minsk 1 and 2. We now know, because the former Chancellor of Germany and President of France have both confessed, we never intended to honor that agreement. We were just buying time to arm Zelensky and the Ukrainians to launch our proxy war and destroy Russia. Remember, Victoria Nuland's made that clear. The purpose of the war is to destroy Russia. Would you allow that if you were Russia? So they didn't. They also said, okay, the people who you've been killing now for 10 years, we're going to give a chance to be under the protection of the Russian Federation, and that's what they did. Look, that's the real story. Take it or leave it. That's the real story. I give Robert F. Kennedy Jr. a lot of credit because he tells the truth about it, as Putin did in his interview with Tucker Carlson, which I hope you watched. So there you have. And now the fall of, I'm going to butcher this name, Advesky. Some of you are out there saying, oh man, you really butchered it. Look, it was supposed to be the next Bakhmut, where they fought a long time. It was a hard battle. Russia ran over it like that. And the elite troops that Zelensky and his new general sent in picked up the weapons and fled. They pulled a Biden Afghanistan. They took off and they took what weapons they could and left the rest behind and fled. And now the Russians are moving south. A little prediction for you. We're not even a prediction segment, but I'm going to give you a prediction. This war will end when Odessa goes back to becoming part of Russia. I'm just telling you. And Zelensky flees. I wouldn't, if you're invited to invest in Zelensky's long-time survival in whichever mansion he chooses to live in, whichever one after he flees, not a good investment. Not a good investment, I'm just telling you, okay? Okay, then the second big news, final big news story in our news segment, because we're already running out of time here. The war in the Mideast, let me tell you, I said from the beginning in that one, Israel is going to wipe out Hamas. Israel is wiping out Hamas. I have been to the West Bank, okay? Unlike most Americans, I met with Arafat's people in 1990, I think it was, okay? I went there and tried to convince him to come to some sort of peace settlement with Israel. I do PR, so that's what I was talking PR, not military. And Arafat said to me, fine, thank you. He was fine. By the way, he was impeccably polite. He just was, I'm telling you. He was a very tiny little man, impeccably polite, and he did speak English. He just told me, fine, thank you. If I do what you say, I'll be dead tomorrow. And I agreed. That was kind of a strong argument against my recommendation. But I also went to Gaza. 2 points I want to make, and they both contribute as to why Gaza has to go totally lock, stock, and bond to Israel and become part of Israel once again. Not just a territory, part of Israel. Number one, what took my breath away when I was sneaked into Gaza, I was not there under Israeli auspices. I was there to meet with the Palestinians. Again, to try and help find a peaceful solution. I was a little naive. But what stunned me about Gaza is it was breathtakingly beautiful. I'm not saying it was really nice. I'm telling you, breathtakingly beautiful. The palm trees, the beaches, everything about it. Everything about it. It could be the top Mideast resort. It's that naturally gorgeous. The ocean waves rolling up, the white sand beaches, the palm tree lined streets. It has everything. Okay, it has everything. And I kept thinking, why isn't this a resort? Then I met with the Hamas leadership. They were vile. And I'm talking, think about it, I'm talking almost 30 years ago. They were vile. Way back then, they were vile. Arafat's people to a one were polite and cordial. They may not have agreed with what I was saying. They were polite. The Hamas people were vile. I later said to a good Palestinian friend of mine, why don't they develop those beaches and make it? He said, because if a Palestinian or anyone else even put on a bathing suit on beaches, Hamas would kill them. It was a Palestinian who told me that. That's how vile these people are. Israel cannot survive with Hamas intact. And it's not going to. It's not going to. Look, just ask yourself a question here. And before you fall for all the nonsense about, but most of the Palestinian people in Gaza are really nice people. Would you follow this man when he told you to go rape and terrorize and torture and burn alive 1,200 innocent Israelis? Look at that man. I wouldn't follow this man to the men's room. Would you? Would you? They did, quite willingly. Those are the eyes of a madman. And by the way, probably a billionaire madman, so how about getting your damn teeth fixed? That's how they are. So let me close with this observation. I think Gaza is going to become a resort area. Not immediately, but within 5 to 10 years, because everything is there for it. And if this man and his vile cohorts had taken the billions, I'm saying with a B, of dollars they were handed by Qatar and other Arab countries and developed Gaza into what it could have been, instead of using it to build 500 miles of terror tunnels, and these are sophisticated tunnels, folks, sophisticated. I was in one of them when I was there. They could have made every Palestinian wealthy. Instead, they oppressed the Palestinian people there. They kept them under their boot, and they used them as human shields. You can't get more vile than this monster. So Israel will win it. I hope and pray every night that Netanyahu doesn't bow to Biden. You gotta stop ceasefire. And by the way, when I imitate Biden, don't say to yourself, it's not nice to imitate an old man. I'm as old as him almost, okay? So we geeks have a right to do what we want with each other, okay? So that's where we are with that guy. Look, yeah, I tell my brother, who is 80 years old, I say one of the things I hate most about Biden, just other than every policy he has, is he gives we old geeks a bad name. Everybody expects me to be tottering, stumbling, and bumbling and fumbling around. I tell them, I don't do that. And most of the old people, but my brother lives in the seniors home. There's people 100 years old there. And I like this guy. He's old, senile, toxic Joe Biden. He's got toxic dementia. My brother said to me the other day, if Biden were in our senior home where I live, he'd be in restricted living. And it's true, folks. It's just true. So, but we're going to lose Biden's proxy war in Ukraine. The sooner the better, get it over with, so fewer and fewer young Ukrainians die. Zelensky's already wiped out a generation, and he doesn't even care. He just moved to one of his mansions, and as long as he lives, be happy as a lark. Israel's going to win against Hamas, and you're going to see real peace in the Mideast. One other thought: don't believe for 1 minute that all these Mideast countries are angry at Israel and going to go to war with them. They would love to see Hamas eliminated. That's what's going on behind the scenes, mark my word, okay? Okay, now, the interview section. I'm going to make this quick, okay? I'm going to make this quick. I'm going to put on for I think almost 2 years, I did a great podcast. Some of you may have seen it. Called Coffee with Caleb Carter. It's called the Offshore Club. It was from the Offshore Club. And the whole purpose of it was help people find property offshore. I put on my Offshore Club hat. And I do it with my Offshore Club hat on. That is my offshore. That's because it was all about Caribbean properties, properties in Central and some in South America. Okay? Why am I bringing it up now? Why did I put on my Coffee with Caleb Carter hat when we're talking about coffee with the Carter Man? Well, because I'm telling you right now, and I wrote in one of my daily updates about this as well, so make sure you subscribe to those at Constitutional Rights PAC, the daily updates. Subscribe to it. The Biden fascist regime is going to continue to oppress the American people. If you watch the great Tucker Carlson interview with Mike Benz, I sent it out again in the daily update. He pointed out that the Biden regime's minions have deliberately redefined democracy. It is no longer what you and I want. It's what they determine will best preserve democracy. Democracy to them being their rule over you, okay? Where they tax you whatever they want, they may force the fees and license, everything. They freedom of speech, he points out their idea of democracy was to suppress 100 million messages that ran counter to the government's dictates, their narrative about the fraud inherent in ballots, mail-in ballots, okay? They wouldn't allow it. And they said that they were protecting democracy by not allowing, this is from DHS, by the way, watch that interview, and that anybody who tried to talk about it was really trying to wage a terrorist attack on domestic infrastructure. That's why 100 million messages. They did the same with COVID. I'm not going to get into that because then you'll never get to see this, but they did the same with COVID. Their idea of democracy is you're allowed to do what you want as long as it's what they say. That's their new definition of democracy. That's what Biden meant in his September 2022 speech in Philadelphia with the red background. Remember the Nazi speech where he threw his fist in the air and said anybody who's against his policies was one, a domestic terrorist, and two, an enemy of the state. Check out the speech, his words. And he said that's because he and only he could protect democracy. So the reason I bring all that up with my Coffee with Caleb Carter hat is you need to have an escape route. I'm going to lay it on you bluntly. I wrote about it again in one of my missives this past week or the week before. You need to have a home somewhere offshore, and I would suggest Central or South America. Okay, matter of fact, I'm going to be more specific. You need to get your assets and your ass offshore, or at least be prepared to, okay? Why the assets? Look what they're doing to Donald Trump. If they can do that to a billionaire, think what they can do to you. Don't forget what Trudeau did in Canada when the truckers protested. He froze their assets. If you say, I'm telling you, the game plan with our government today, the Biden regime, is if you depart from their narrative, if you become a dissenter or an enemy of the state, as they like to term you, they will first freeze and then seize your assets. All this they're doing with Trump is just to lay the groundwork. Trust me. Trust me on that. So what's the solution? Put your money offshore. Bank of Belize. Excellent. Put it in Honduras banks, Nicaragua banks. Why do I recommend these? Because I know of what I speak. This is my home in Honduras. Okay? The front yard is the beach. It's in La Ceiba. The front yard is the beach. Beautiful little 2-bedroom bungalow, groundskeepers, gardeners, guarded gates, and absolute pleasant living. Again, the front yard is the beach, okay? That home probably would cost anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000 in the U.S. because, again, it's on the ocean. You walk down to the ocean, $30,000, okay? But don't wait because the prices are rising. I got that 3 years ago. Here's the guy I bought it from, the developer of the land. He caught those fish in my front yard. There's a tuna. Look at those tuna. Okay? Folks, as I used to say on Coffee with Caleb Carter, living now in Central America is the good life at a great price. You're never more than 125 miles from the ocean. Sometimes, like me, you're 125 feet, and the prices are 1/10 of what you pay up here. Okay? So, yeah, I'm recommending you diversify, get your assets, and maybe one day your butt offshore. Be prepared for it, okay? I'm running out of time. I am out of time. Let me make my predictions, okay? My first prediction is that tomorrow, Saturday, Nikki Haley's going to lose in a landslide in her home state. They don't like her there. Since she became governor and ripped down their state's flag, they have never liked her. She is phony as a $3 bill. They know it. You know, she's disgusting. That's all. It's the only way to say it. She really is disgusting. And she's disgusting. She's personally disgusting. I know people know her, if you got my drift. And she's disgusting. She's going to lose in a landslide tomorrow, but she's going to stay in the race because she's not in the race to win. She's in the race. She's being paid to destroy Donald Trump. And the military-industrial complex is paying her off to do it, and the mainstream media is giving her the forum. So that's prediction number one. But she's going to lose in a landslide, probably about 30 points, okay? My second prediction is this woman, Fani there in bed with her boyfriend, Wade, who she had to pay to have sex with her. I'm sorry, that's what she did. She paid him to have sex with her. Fani is going to walk scot-free. She is not going to be removed from her Trump persecution. It's not prosecution, it's persecution. It's totally false. She's not going to be removed. Why? Because you saw what she did in court. She bounded into court, wasn't even called to the witness stand, just took over and totally abused the American court system. Arrogant, obnoxious, egregious, blowsy, repugnant, and the judge did nothing. Let me tell you something. Two things. One is the reason the judge did nothing is he had worked for her for 4 years. He was used to doing as he was told when Fani spoke. So he did nothing. And two, he contributed to her campaign to get elected to the district attorney's office. He's a supporter. So he was her supporter at that trial. He was her enabler. He turned over his courtroom to her, and here is the danger. Number one, it's twofold. Number one, she's going to walk scot-free and be rewarded. Her church already honored her, by the way, for her courage in destroying the jurisprudence system in that courtroom. Number two, that her behavior is set the stage now for the destruction of any remaining dignity and decorum in our courtrooms. Mark my words, okay? All right, so there you got it. There's our review of the news. Our interview was with myself today, as Kara Carter, encouraging you to get your plan B ready, to be ready to get your assets and yourself offshore. And number three, our predictions. So there you have it. Let's do this every week. Let's enjoy ourselves. Let me hear from you. And together, let's do this thing.